The crystal glass in my hand trembled slightly as Devon, my husband, stood up in the glow of the chandelier-lit room. He adjusted his tie like he was about to step into a board meeting, not a dinner celebrating 12 years of marriage. "Thank you to all our friends and colleagues for being here," he said clearly and confidently. "Alexis and I have been on a long journey together." I smiled, the kind of smile any wife would wear in that moment. But inside something cracked. Devon's gaze swept past me too quickly, like a checkbox he had to tick. And that smile, polite to the point of being fake, was the same one he used for top clients. I glanced around the dinner table at Belladonna, Chicago's most luxurious restaurant, where one meal could equal a senior assistant's monthly salary. Devon's friends and business partners, all key figures in expanding his logistics empire across the Midwest, were present. And 4 seats away sat Haley Monroe, his company's new marketing director, dressed in a striking red dress. Too young, too confident, too familiar with Devon's eyes. I had caught them exchanging glances at least 3 times that evening. Maybe no one else noticed, but I did. I had lived long enough to recognize when a man was hiding something. "We've shared many memories together," Devon continued, raising his glass. "But tonight, I want to share something special." Haley subtly leaned forward. Under the table she rummaged through her purse. My throat tightened. Devon took a breath. "I know this may come as a surprise, but—" "Actually, let me say it," Haley cut in, standing tall, her voice clear and steady like she was on a TED Talk stage. The clinking of cutlery came to an abrupt stop. "Devon and I are getting married," she announced, holding up a dazzling ring as if declaring victory before a crowd. The table went silent. A guest across from us dropped their spoon. Devon didn't speak, he just stood there, chin raised, eyes strained to appear composed but clearly tense. I set my glass down gently, making no sound. Every pair of eyes in the room was glued to me, waiting for a reaction. Tears? A slap? Screaming? Haley kept smiling, radiant like she'd just won a beauty pageant. "Hebe's deserves real happiness," she said. "And I'm lucky to be the one to give him that." I didn't cry. I sat tall and locked eyes with Devon. And I smiled. Not coldly, not with the polite charm I used for years at client dinners, but the kind of smile that made Devon visibly nervous for the rest of the night. He fidgeted. Haley glanced at me, briefly thrown off. They thought they'd humiliated me, defeated me in front of everyone. But what they didn't know was, tonight was the night I made my first move. After Haley's big announcement, the air in the room felt vacuumed out. Yet I simply sat, lips curved slightly, eyes on Devon. He tugged at his tie, scanning the room like he couldn't process my response, or rather the lack of one. No tears, no rage, no pleading. I picked up my glass and tapped it lightly. "Congratulations," I said, my voice even and cold. Haley hesitated. Devon tilted his head, trying to guess my next move. 45 minutes later, the dinner ended. Devon and Haley left in a pre-booked car. I didn't watch them go. I walked out, but not home. I went to the office. LeConte Tower stood tall in downtown Cleveland, Ohio. The 44th floor home to Ashford Logistics official headquarters was still lit. But Devon didn't know that the 44th floor, unlisted on the elevator directory, was where the real operations took place. My fingerprint activated the security reader. The doors opened, silent and precise, like always. Only 2 people knew I existed up here. Reuben, our family lawyer since my father's days, and Nina, my private assistant since I graduated from Columbia's MBA program. My father, Richard Belmont, was no fool. When he died suddenly when I was 24, he didn't leave me a polished company. He left me control over a network of private equity funds, including majority ownership in Ashford Logistics. I remember what he told me during our final meeting in New York. "No one takes a young woman seriously, not even if she carries the Belmont name. So don't fight for attention. Let them underestimate you. Then use it to take them places they never saw coming." I followed his advice. When Devon applied for the COO position at a budding logistics firm, I was the one who approved his file. Through a shell company, I provided the main capital, through a web of funds, I nominated him as CEO 3 years later. Devin never questioned it, too busy flaunting his so-called business acumen to wonder why doors opened so easily for him. And I, the silent wife at his side, knew exactly what game I was playing. I sat in the leather chair of my unmarked office. On the wall hung a charcoal abstract painting with a hidden wall safe beneath it. I opened it. Inside was the original transfer deed of Ashford Logistics, stamped with the red seal of its parent company, Belmont Capital Holdings, naming the sole owner as Alexis Belmont Pierce. Not Devin, not the board of directors. I photographed every document, then sent them to Ruben with a short message. Activate Phase 2, see you at Monday's board meeting. The computer screen lit up as I opened the presentation file Devin had prepared for the upcoming restructuring announcement. He planned to fire dozens of longtime employees who had been with my father from the beginning. I rewrote the entire thing. By tomorrow morning, the updated version would be in the hands of every shareholder, with the speaker's name changed in the first line. Interim CEO, Alexis Belmont Pierce. I closed the laptop. In the mirror across from me, I saw a different reflection. Not the silent wife standing behind a man, but the woman he never truly understood. Tonight, Devin thought he had humiliated me in front of the entire city. But he didn't know. I was never behind him. I chose to remain in the shadows. Until the light belonged to me. The next morning, at exactly 7:30, I stepped into the office on the 44th floor with a feeling that wasn't fear, but absolute focus. Protocol Artemis had always been theoretical. A contingency plan created 12 years ago during long nights with my father, as he said. If you truly hold the reins, you must be prepared for the day someone closest to you betrays you. I never thought that person would be Devin, but that's exactly why the plan had always been ready. The system lockdown required 3 levels of authentication: fingerprint, facial recognition, and a one-time passcode stored offline on a USB one I had worn around my neck for years. After the final scan, I typed 3 lines of code. A message popped up on the screen. Access to all administrative dashboards under CEO authority only. At that moment, Nina walked in, holding a tablet showing real-time updates. Devin just tried logging in from a device at the Westlake office. Access denied. I gave a slight nod. No words needed. Phase 1 was complete. Phase 2, bringing evidence into the light. Since last year, I had suspected financial irregularities in 2 federal transport projects managed by Haley. I warned Devin, but he brushed it off. Now I understood. It wasn't negligence, he was in on it. I opened the dossier Nina had compiled over the past 3 months. More than 90 emails detailing money laundering through fake contracts. 6 audio recordings of Haley negotiating kickbacks. And most critically, 3 digital documents bearing Devin's signature. I printed the hard copies, sealed them in a red confidential folder, and called Ruben. You'll deliver this to every board member within 2 hours, in person, no email. Understood, he replied, asking no questions. By 10 a.m., Devin had called 8 times. I answered none. He left a voicemail. Alexis, last night was a misunderstanding. You're blowing this up. Stop before it goes too far. Then a message from Haley followed. You think you're winning, but I'm not the kind of woman you can just push aside. Don't forget, you were just the wife. I'm the future. I didn't respond. I forwarded both messages to Ruben, adding, file these as supporting material, may be useful if they file a complaint. That afternoon, I walked into the emergency board meeting, where Devin believed he'd be unveiling his plan to expand into the Asian market. He entered the boardroom with his usual confidence but froze when he saw me at the head of the table, red folders already laid out in front of every chair. Alexis? Devin frowned. What are you doing here? The CFO turned to him, tone flat. Mrs. Pierce called this meeting. As per primary executive ownership terms, she has the right. Devin stammered, then looked at me with a forced smile. What is this? You planning a coup? I didn't answer. I opened my folder and slid it toward Mr. Scott, the chairman. Please turn to page 13. You'll find full audio, documentation, and financial breakdowns. No one spoke for 5 minutes, just the sound of flipping pages and growing tension. Haley wasn't present, but her name appeared in every document. Finally, Mr. Scott cleared his throat and looked at Devon. "Mr. Marcus, we'll need a formal written explanation within 24 hours. Devon stood, face pale. He looked at me but didn't dare say my name. I rose and gathered my files. "This meeting is adjourned. I have a full schedule next week. As acting CEO of Ashford Logistics, I recommend we begin a full audit of all contracts from the past 6 months." I walked out, hearing the murmurs behind me. What just happened? Who is she really? And this was only the beginning. 3 weeks after I activated Protocol Artemis, the annual shareholder meeting of Ashford Logistics took place at the Langston Grand Hotel, 37th floor. The same venue where Devon's portrait once hung, labeled founder and acclaimed young CEO. Today, that portrait was gone. I arrived 15 minutes before the opening, a simple gray suit, low ponytail, no heavy makeup. But my gaze had changed. No longer the wife behind a betrayer. Now, the woman reclaiming what had always been hers. The main hall glowed under chandeliers and internal broadcast cameras. Over 80 shareholders filled the rows. Most of them people who never knew who I was, or once assumed I was just the wife. At exactly 9 a.m., Devon stepped up to the podium. Tie crooked, eyes sunken, but still trying to steady his voice. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I know there have been misunderstandings and internal disruptions recently, but I'm here to reaffirm my leadership and the future direction of Ashford." A few polite claps echoed, mostly from smaller shareholders who hadn't yet caught up with the news. I didn't stand immediately. I waited for Devon to finish presenting his doctored financial report, full of colorful graphs hiding a $3.8 million loss from the Midwest Regional Project. Just as he was about to move on to restructuring strategies, I stepped onto the stage, calm, without any need for introduction. "If I may interrupt." Devon froze. "Alexis? This isn't the time." "I'm Alexis Belmont Pierce," I said clearly into the microphone. "Legal owner of 64.3% of Ashford Logistics." Silence fell across the room. Devon stammered. What are you talking about?" I nodded to the technician by the projector. The massive LED screen lit up, displaying the company's legal structure chart. Ownership level, Belmont Estate Holdings. Chair, Alexis Belmont Pierce. Executive level, Devon Pierce. Interim CEO, previously suspended. A wave of murmurs rippled through the room. I continued. Devon Pierce was appointed CEO 14 years ago under a family asset management agreement, with powers strictly limited by legacy protection clauses. He was never authorized to transfer shares, approve projects over $500,000, or appoint senior staff without my written consent. I turned to the board. "I have sufficient evidence proving these clauses have been repeatedly violated over the past 3 years. An older board member spoke up. "We were never informed that you were behind the entire structure." "I never needed a title," I replied. "I needed safety, until safety no longer existed." I clicked the next slide. The screen shifted to a series of emails, coded exchanges between Devon and Victoria Hale. Victoria wasn't in the room, but her image was crystal clear, wearing a deep red dress, attending a party in Miami, holding a champagne glass and smiling as she dangled a USB drive containing internal project files. I paused to let the audience absorb the image, then spoke. She was a mid-level project assistant, no clearance for classified documents, and yet she obtained full data on the north-south logistics route, stole client information and leaked it to our competitor's Southern Cross Shipping, where she now serves as the newly appointed CCO. Devon's face went pale. Some shareholders stood up. One of them said aloud, "You call this a restructuring, Devon?" I concluded, as the legal owner and board-authorized acting executive, I hereby request the immediate suspension of all executive powers held by Devon Pierce, and launch an independent legal investigation with the support of Thompson and Lee law offices. I looked directly into the internal broadcast camera. And if Victoria Hale is watching this session, I only have one thing to say. Reputation can be painted over, but the truth will show. Applause erupted, not out of celebration but shock. Devon lowered his head, fists clenched. He had nothing left to say. I stepped off the stage. No need to look back. Within 24 hours of the shareholder meeting, an internal statement was released by the board. Devin Pierce was suspended as CEO. Victoria Hale was under investigation for ethical misconduct and corporate data breaches. It all happened swiftly, almost ruthlessly, but no one could claim it was unjust. Devin was ordered to vacate the premises within 4 hours. He exited Ashford Logistics headquarters under the indifferent stares of the very employees who used to flatter him. His access badge was deactivated. Every internal system account, from email to approval portals, had been locked out by Protocol Artemis. I still remember the image of Devin in the lobby, furiously calling, only to get no answer. No assistant, no lawyer, no Victoria by his side. The black BMW he'd driven for 10 years? Company owned. The penthouse at Riverside Heights, registered to Belmont Estate under trustee control. His personal expense accounts? Already secured behind dual authorization protocols he never bothered to learn, thinking he was too clever to be caught. That same day, Thompson and Lee officially submitted a motion to freeze all assets held in Devin's name for 60 days to support the investigation into willful financial manipulation. His personal accounts were frozen. Credit cards declined. The Patek Philippe watch he flaunted at conferences? Requested for return. Purchased with company funds. Without approval. As for Victoria, her fall was quieter, but far more toxic. She disappeared from social media right after the meeting. But 2 days later, the internal system of Southern Cross Shipping, where she had just assumed the CCO role, posted a termination notice citing unforeseen breach of confidentiality. They didn't wait for a verdict. 3 email threads and a single office surveillance clip were enough to reveal her true face to the entire industry. In logistics and transportation, reputation can't be bought with red lipstick or a tight dress. Victoria was blacklisted from every major industry association. Panel invitations vanished. Third-party contracts she used to broker cancelled without hesitation. No title, no income. And no more young CEO dream she once bragged about in that Forbes local interview 3 months ago. I didn't track them closely. But someone I know in corporate legal sent me a photo of Victoria dragging a suitcase out of a service department in Lower Manhattan after her card was declined. They used to think they held all the power, that I would stay silent forever, that a woman behind the curtain would never have the courage to step forward. Devin tried to contact me twice, once by email, once by letter. Both were returned. He even tried calling my mother, but she only replied with one sentence. She owes you nothing, and there's nothing left to say. I didn't celebrate their downfall, but I didn't pity them either. What Devin and Victoria traded away for a few flashy years was their dignity and trust. Once you lose those, everything else is just smoke. On Monday morning at 8:30 a.m. I walked into Ashford Logistics headquarters for the first time as what I had never publicly claimed to be, CEO and legal owner of Ashford Holdings. No longer Devin's shadow. No longer the soft-spoken wife at dinner tables quietly swallowing insults. I stepped into the lobby in an ivory suit, hair pinned back, my expression so composed it made even those who knew the truth hesitate. The head of communications, the one who once leaked internal files to Victoria, lowered his head the moment he saw me. The accounting manager, who had allowed Devin to use company funds for personal expenses, fumbled to greet me like he was facing an auditor. I didn't smile, I didn't nod, I just walked straight ahead. 30 minutes later, in the 15th floor conference room, the official announcement was broadcast live to every branch nationwide. I stood at the podium and looked straight into the camera. Good morning, I'm Alexis Pierce, and this might be the first time you hear my name as a leader, but the truth is I've been running Ashford Holdings for 14 years, under the internal name Artemis Trust. No applause, no one dared speak, but out of the 15 people in the room, not one looked away. I continued, my voice steady. I stayed silent to protect stability, but what just happened proves that silence only empowers the wrong people. Starting today, Ashford enters a new era. I pressed the remote control. The screen behind me lit up with a new logo, a fusion of the Artemis Trust symbol and Winston Global. I officially announce Ashford Holdings is merging with Winston Global, once the fiercest rival of Devin Pierce. A wave of murmurs spread across the rows. I knew why. Devin had blocked every past attempt at collaboration with Winston Global. But that was history. Back then, Devin still had a title. Now, He didn't even have clearance to enter the building. I looked up. This merger isn't just about finance, it's about leadership philosophy. We choose transparency, we choose efficiency over favoritism, and we choose talent over connections. That last line silenced a few faces below. They knew exactly what that meant. 2 hours later, I signed 3 senior-level personnel orders. 2 employees were suspended pending investigation for dishonesty. 1 was terminated for manipulating financial reports to curry favor with Devon. No early notice, no HR meetings. No thank you for your service script. I sent a single message across the entire system. The Devon and Victoria era is over. That same afternoon, I held a closed-door meeting with the Winston Global team at the Hilton, joined by our financial partner flying in from London. The purpose? Finalize a $200 million investment to restructure our sustainable supply chain for the coming year. The irony? This was the exact proposal I had submitted to Devon 2 years ago, the one he tossed in the trash with the comment, "Women don't understand logistics." Today, I signed that deal. In my own name. Me, the woman once dismissed as decor beside the CEO, was now the highest-ranking executive of one of the largest logistics firms on the Eastern Seaboard. As I left the meeting room, a young female employee from Winston approached me, hesitantly. "Alexis, I read your file. I just want to say thank you for no longer staying silent." I gave her a small nod, and this time, I smiled, not out of victory, but because I knew I wasn't just standing up for myself. I had opened the door for many others who were once dismissed, who were once called the support. And I wasn't stopping here. A month after the merger announcement, I returned to the old building on Fairmont Street, once my father George Pierce's private office. The third-floor room still kept its classic architecture: wood-paneled ceilings, black-framed glass windows, and leather-bound bookshelves straight out of 1960s America. Everything inside remained untouched, as if no one had dared disturb it for 15 years. No tech screens, no smartboards. But there was one thing I remembered clearly: the left drawer of his desk. I pulled it open, and there it was. The old wooden box wrapped in velvet blue, lying still, as if it had been waiting. I took out the silver signet ring engraved with the original Asher crest, a keepsake passed down from my grandfather. Beneath it lay a steel Rolex, not extravagantly priced, but the last gift my father gave me before he died, in an accident I still believe wasn't entirely coincidental. I slipped the ring onto my right hand, watching the light catch the dulled stone. A flood of old memories rushed back. Days when I sat on my father's lap, as he explained how a single contract could shape the destiny of an entire company. That afternoon, I held a private press briefing in that very room. No flashy logos, no elaborate decor. Just me, standing in front of the camera. I once hid my true identity to protect the legacy my father left behind, but from today on I no longer have to hide. I raised my hand, the silver ring catching the golden light of dusk, and said clearly, "As the rightful heir, I hereby restore the Ashford Legacy Office, the original headquarters founded by George Pierce in 1972. Industry veterans, once rivals, bowed in recognition. Global financial media began calling me the silent daughter who reclaimed a dynasty. But I knew reclaiming a legacy wasn't enough. I couldn't repeat the past. I had to build something for the future." A few weeks later, I restructured the Ashford Foundation, which had merely been a scholarship fund under Devon, into a powerful platform focused on developing and supporting young women in business leadership and finance. The first initiative was called the Athena Program, a leadership training series designed specifically for girls from minority communities across the Midwest. I personally selected the first 30 participants, no GPA, no recommendation letters required, just a self-recorded video explaining why they believed they were worth investing in. One clip stopped me cold. A young brown-skinned girl, voice trembling, stood in a worn-out garage in Ohio and said, "I just want one chance to prove that women weren't born to be background characters." I called her that same night. At the program's launch, I invited her to speak beside me, a message to an industry still riddled with bias. Women don't wait to be chosen, they build the road so others don't have to wait. In the press, I became the new model, a CEO who rebuilt a legacy and forged a future with quiet strength. People asked if I planned to remarry. I just smiled and said, I've just married myself again, and that relationship deserves priority. Soon after, I was invited to be the keynote speaker at the Women in Capital Leadership Conference in New York. Just before I stepped onto the stage, an organizer asked how I'd like to be introduced. I paused for a few seconds, then answered softly, "Call me Alexis Pierce, the girl once erased from the canvas, now the one holding the brush, to paint the entire scene anew." Alexis Pierce's journey is a powerful reminder that silence does not equal weakness. Betrayed, dismissed, and pushed out of the empire bearing her own family's name, she didn't seek noisy revenge. Instead, she quietly gathered the truth and prepared each step to reclaim her rightful place. In real life, those underestimated are often the ones holding the key to real change. And when they rise, they don't just demand justice, they redefine what power and resilience truly mean. What are your thoughts on Alexis's journey and the fate of those who betrayed her? Share your perspective below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful, emotional family stories ahead.